I work at Queen's Park on the Bakerloo line as a train operator. My incident happened at Harrow and Woolstone on the platform. It happened back in April of 2018. How it happened was that the train was on the platform, all the doors were closed, and I was told by the signalman that I had to reverse the train from the platform because there was an incident going on in the sidings. So I shut my train down and started walking on the platform to the opposite end to take my train out. And doors were shut. And what happened was that I had to use the butterfly to open one set of doors for me to enter into the train. You turn it and it gives you literally 6 seconds for you to, by the time it opens and then closes. I waited for it to open and then I flicked it to close. Then I got my 6 seconds. So I rushed into the door. I had my rucksack, and instead of me stooping under the door, because I was rushing, I rushed through upright, whacked my head at the top of the door rail, and I got into the carriage and I just fell to the ground, and I just saw a little bit of blood on my top of my head, and then next thing you know, my eyes was covered in red blood, and then with that I touched my head again, and there was just blood everywhere. So I went into my rucksack and I got my Hi-Vi, and I put that over my head to stop the flow of the blood. And then I got my J-door key, went into the cab, put my control key in, and I called up the controller. And I said to him that I've just had an accident. I split my head open, and that the train's going to be running empty to Queen's Park. And once I get to Queen's Park, ensure that there's the ambulance there. It's happened to me a few times because I'm so tall. When you're walking through the carriages, when you're in the sidings, you get a little whack on the head, you know. But I've never had it. It's never been cut. It's just like a little bang. But I've never actually cut myself whereby it's ended up bleeding. Just a little bruise and that's it. But this time it was really bad. So the reason why it happened was because the platform was higher than the train. So the train level wasn't on the same level, step level. It was lower because those platforms are made for the overground trains. And a lot of people were saying to me that, you know, that I shouldn't have actually driven the train. But I assessed the whole situation, and if I'd left the train on the platform, it would have caused major delays, because the thing is, at the time, that train had already been on the platform for about 15 minutes because there was a stall train in the siding. So I was waiting on the platform at Harrow and Woolstone on the northbound. So there was already trains behind me on the northbound blocking all the way back. I had to assess what to do, what would be best, and I felt strong enough to continue, but not to continue in service. And I felt that if I've got a clear run down to Queen's Park, I've requested a relieving driver, I've requested the ambulance, and I've requested a manager to meet me there. So, you know, the delay should be minimal compared to if I was to reverse the train at Stonebridge Park, whereby it would cause even more further delay to the service. Thing is, when I got to Queen's Park, there was a relieving driver there, and he took me off, and then there was a manager there as well. And when we got into Premier House, he said, let's go up into the toilets so that we can clean it up, because the ambulance hadn't arrived. And when I took the Hi-Vi off my head, he goes, oh God, that looks deep. And so I just thought, Jesus Christ, you know. So he helped me clean it up. And then about 10 minutes later, the ambulance turned up. When they took the bandage off, they go, ooh, that looks deep. How did you do that? If the ambulance crew is saying, this looks deep, that looks deep, it must really look pretty bad. Once I got to Queen's Park, my manager, Martin Pierce, he was brilliant. He really helped me to stay calm. We went back downstairs and the ambulance was there, and they then, another manager then accompanied me to St Mary's in the ambulance. His name is Craig, and he stayed with me throughout the whole process. I mean, I was down at St Mary's for at least 3 hours. It just cut me right there. I had, I think it was about 18 stitches. After the accident, I noticed that I was suffering with concussion, really bad concussion, and the doctor said to me that I shouldn't operate anything for at least 4 days. I rang work, I said to them I'm going to be off for at least 4 to 5 days, and they were fine with it. They did do a fact-finding investigation with myself, the unions, and they were concerned. They were concerned with regards to the incident, the accident, and how it is that they can prevent it. And what they've said is that they're looking to modify the time delay on that mechanism, which will allow the drivers more time for them to enter into the carriage. They've sent out a memo to tell drivers that if they're going to be reversing off the platform, then it's best just to keep the doors open and not to worry so much about the delay which will cause to the service. So yeah, so the new procedure is to keep all the doors open. You know, each incident is, everyone reacts differently. I don't know, because at the end of the day, it's different circumstances, you know, so everybody has to judge things and make a decision what's best. It all depends. I mean, I just assess what was going on with myself. With regards to the accident, you know, I think them saying to leave the doors open would have probably prevented me from actually having that accident. But at the time, the doors were already closed. But now the procedure is changed. Just leave the doors open if you're changing in. So yeah, that kind of cuts out the possibility of cracking your head, or, you know, on the door rail.
Yeah, I'm a train driver. I've been working in this job for 20 years. Started off as a guard, went on to the Hammersmith City Line, where I was an instructor for about 15 years, and I'm now back working again as a driver at High Barnet. Yes, it was in the work car park. I caught my hand in a sliding gate. What it is, it's a big heavy gate, and we tend to pull it and slide it back and let it go. I realised as I slid it back, someone had shouted, and rather than let go, I hadn't let go of the gate. And I sort of held on to it to slow it down, if it makes sense, and didn't get my hand out in time. Now, to stop that happening, there is some sort of like 3-inch rubber object, so it would bounce and come back. Well, that was missing, so the gate went all the way back to the post and trapped my fingers in between a handle and a metal post, yeah. It actually caught the top of my finger where my nail is. Immediately I felt the pain, there was the blood everywhere. That's basically it. I completely squashed my finger and broke my nail. If I hadn't broke the finger, it would just be very badly bruised. I came upstairs, slightly embarrassed. Showed my hand, there was a little bit of fuss, and then one of the managers went and got the first aid kit out. She cleaned around the area with a wipe, and we had a look, and she asked me how I felt. I said, I was a bit shaky. If I could, I was quite early for my duty, so I'd have a coffee. We'd clean it up, see if the blood stops, which it did stop. I took some painkillers, and they asked if I wanted to sort of sit back and let someone else, and I said no, I'll be prepared to try. The duty that I was doing allowed me to have a break within an hour, so I thought I'd give it that hour to see how I got on, and I kept them informed. and to the point that I couldn't do it anymore, where the pain had started to come back. But they were very sort of helpful towards me. Immediately they put a notice up so it could be seen for anyone else going into the car park. And then within a week or two, I can't remember exactly, the problem had been fixed. They'd replaced the safety equipment that was missing. Yeah, it's there, you can see it, yeah. In fact, you wouldn't even notice it's there unless you've done something like that, or it's one of them bits of equipment that just, you only notice it when you catch your fingers in it. It's also possible, without getting too technical, they had a smaller one on there. The gates, they're metal, the handles bend. It may have been over a period of time, the gate has changed shape, so whatever was there wasn't enough anymore. It needed looking at maybe before, checking to see if it was still up to the job. So it could be that as well, because there was something there. I mean, it took a whole set of circumstances for it to happen. It took for me to slam it back, for someone at that point to shout, for me to take my notice away. So it took a whole chain of events for it to happen. Obviously, be aware, and if you see something that you don't think is right, report it straight away. Don't leave it for someone else.